The content, views, and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the producer and do not necessarily reflect the view and opinions of the City of Bremerton, BCAT, their officials, or their employees.
Hi, my name is Phil Colcord. I'm president of Fraternal Order of Police Evergreen Lodge 1 here in Kitsap County, and this is our outreach program. Today our guest visitor is Jeff, and I'm not sure how to pronounce that last
Anaya.
name. Anaya.
Yep.
And I have trouble with Smith and Jones.
That's all right.
Anyway, he is the president of Fraternal Order of Police State Lodge, and he took time out from his busy schedule to fill you in on things that are happening around the state and with FOP, Fraternal Order of Police. So Jeff, welcome here. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yes, so I'm a Vancouver police officer right now. I've been in law enforcement for about 17 years. Started my career in Oakland, California. Got laid off there due to budget cuts, came up to Vancouver and have been there since 2011. I'm in our traffic unit to do a bunch of traffic stuff, EVOC instructor, DRE, collision reconstructionist, all that fun stuff. I'm our guild president right now, and as well as the state president for the Washington State Fraternal Order of Police. So stay kind of busy and involved in law enforcement as much as possible.
Sounds like you're a glutton for punishment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Also married and with 3 wonderful kids. So.
Oh, good. That's great. Yeah, I came from California too. I got hired on, asked to come and show up to Placer County Sheriff's Office 2 weeks after I moved to Washington. And I said, no thanks. So I stayed at Washington and took jobs for a couple of years till I got hired on up at Kitsap County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah. After the layoff, I came up here to Vancouver, and shortly after that, they started calling and saying, "Hey, do you want to come back?" And no. And it's, again, probably the best for me. Is probably the best decision.
Well, yeah, I think Washington is a lot better than California. And it was back in the day too for getting ahead. You know.
Yeah.
You work your whole life and down in California and have little to show for it because everything was so expensive. Not that it's not bad up here now. But.
Right, yeah.
Okay, what do you see as the most pressing needs of law enforcement in Washington State right now? For me, there's quite a few things, but I think it all starts with staffing. Staffing right now, if you look nationally, Washington State is 51st out of 51, including the District of Columbia, as far as officers per capita. So number of officers per 1,000 people, we are the lowest in everybody. So staffing levels are just atrocious, which leads into a whole bunch of other issues. It leads into being able to get adequate mental health services or resources to officers, right? Because we're asking them to do far more than what they did before with far less. And then they don't have training, right? So because they're so short-staffed, the training is not happening as much as it could be or as it should be. So again, I think it all stems from that staffing piece. We are so short-handed. It is really hard to get people in the door, and this affects both small and large agencies. It affects everybody. To compound that problem, now a lot of departments around the state are putting freeze on employment, on hiring. I know Kitsap County has done it, and they're kind of beside themselves over that because we didn't have enough officers to begin with. And then, like you said, that even when you hire officers, it's a while before, they say it takes almost a year and a half before they become independent on their own. So.
Yeah, and I will say that we have, because of the regional academies that have started up, the turnaround time is a lot better. I remember back before the regional academies kicked off, we were waiting 6, 8, 9 months before an officer would even start the academy, right? So they would get hired and then sit in backgrounds or doing extra training for 6 to 9 months
before they even get into the academy, and then again that starts that year and a half before they're off on their own.
So you got quite a time.
Yeah, so you're looking almost 2 years before that officer is actually independent and doing their own business.
Yeah, and it's good though that you have to, lack of a different word, babysit them until they're get established. But back in my day, it took 3 years before you got into the academy. And you were pretty functional as an officer because they kick you had a FTO for a very short time, and then they kicked you out on your own. And it was do or die, basically.
Yeah.
So, okay. How is FOP working to support the mental health and wellness of law enforcement?
So in Washington State, we started our own wellness summit. We brought our first one this year, brought in our national wellness chair, Sherry Martin, to put on some training with stronger families. And so it encompasses a bunch of different mental health pieces to include what happens at home, right? We understand that what we do at work will come home with us. Whether we share that with our family or we don't, that compounds into different issues at home. And how do we mitigate the stresses at home so they don't come to work, and vice versa? How do we mitigate the stresses at work so they don't come home with us? So we brought them in and we're working on that. I know the National FOP, we have a wellness summit as well. But not everybody in Washington State is able to afford to go to these and get the time off, and so we brought one here. Later this year, we're also having a train the trainer, where we're having our peer support specialists from different agencies come in and train and learn how to train the others' peer support within their agencies. So again, trying to help officers be able to help each other prior to that becoming an issue. So we're taking steps to try to bring training and these programs here to Washington, so again we can reach more people within Washington. So we're not asking them again to leave and go out of state and do all these other things. And again, when you're talking about the staffing, a lot of them can't get time off. They're not allowed to get time off and to travel and to pay for all those things. So if we have something local where we can make it free or a lesser charge for them, and it's closer, so they don't have to go pay for a hotel and all these things, their departments are more likely to allow them to go. So we're really pushing forward to try to do things of that nature and bring it here to Washington State so we can reach more people.
Well, and you're fighting a lot of things along the way. One is mandatory overtime a lot of the departments have, so they don't have the time to go to it. But I think it's excellent that you're doing this and they're bringing this about, and it's something that's needed really. Back in my day, which was after the Civil War, but you basically were told to suck it up. I mean, you had to handle it yourself. There wasn't any guidelines on what to do, and you see traumatic things all the time that you're not used to, and when you're young and starting out, and you just end up developing a technique and getting calluses for them. But it would have been nice to have a program like you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. In California, I was actually involved with an incident where 4 officers were killed. And it's the same thing. It was, I was on scene for the whole thing, assisted with all of it, and it was write your report and we'll see you in the morning. Right. That was the mindset. It was just, okay, we'll see you tomorrow morning. And you just went home and you dealt with it, and then kind of moved on. Like you said, you built calluses on how to
handle it,
handle it yourself, and hope you did it right. And who knows, but you did the best you could, and you moved forward.
And and I'm afraid from things I hear that one of the bad things about the departments today is back in our day, we were all a family. We had one of our officers on our shift get shot. And we ended up working that deal that night, and then we ended up getting together with their family and our families, and it was like, part of your family got killed.
Right.
And so we were closer together, like a family. We protected each other and had good things and bad things about that. But
like all families.
Yeah. Anyway, community trust.
Yes.
Tell us about some of the ways your members are working with the community to strengthen that trust.
Well, one thing that about law enforcement officers is we're all servants, right? We love to serve our communities. We love to serve others. So volunteering, I think just across the board, it has been part of who we are for a long time, right? So a lot of us volunteer in like youth sports. I know I got to coach both my kids growing up playing baseball. So I got to coach that, and I love being able to be involved and volunteer in that aspect. But on an organizational level, you see a lot more organizations who are involving themselves in things like Shop with the Cop, where you take underprivileged youth and whatever and go to the stores and buy Christmas or the holiday presents. Coffee with the Cop, there's a lot of those happening where you're trying to reach just your communities prior to, in these non-enforcement settings. A lot of organizations have things like neighborhood police officers, where their whole job is to go out and meet with neighborhood watch associations, and they have a specialized area where they're supposed to go out and deal with all livability issues, listen to what that community is needing, and then report back to the patrol officers, right? So it's kind of that intermedium where we actually have an officer who's going to go out and have these conversations with the community and then get that back to the officers who might not be able to, right? Your day shift officers might not be able to go to those evening meetings that the neighborhood watch is happening. But these neighborhood patrol officers can, and then report back, hey, during the early mornings they're seeing this, or they're complaining about this, or here's their issues. And so you're starting to see a lot more of that. Being able to work with those different organizations and then organizationally have these different officers and making it more community oriented. I see more departments that's their focus, is being community oriented. Yeah.
That's good. That's good to have. Sadly, it was a give and take. Back in the old days, I say again, we didn't have a lot of calls. So what we did when we were off is, we patrolled, but we also walked the different little towns we're in, and we go in the taverns and talk to the people. We go in restaurants. We just hang out with the locals, and we had a community bonding with them. In fact, you go to a bar fight or a tavern fight, and you have more friends in there than the people fighting.
Yep.
And that works to your advantage.
Yeah.
And the cops are just so busy today that they don't have time to interact that way. So it's good that you're making different opportunities for them to interact with the public.
Yeah, 100%. The officers nowadays, they're from one call to the next. It's just they're busy their whole day, and it's the ability to get out and just have those talk is really is gotten lost. Like I said, with the staffing shortages, and so having some kind of officer who's going to go and have these conversations and make those connections is really important.
Good. Yeah. Oh, I agree completely. What are legislative priorities that FOP is currently involved in?
So, we follow all of them. We're always looking at things that we can try to better our use of force policies, our pursuit policies, anything that is going to make our jobs better or easier and allow officers to do their job and be protected. One of the things right now that we're looking at is we have Rep. Simmons actually sponsored a bill for us. It's a Brady bill, and it allows officers to have more due process during that Brady process. For those who don't know what Brady is, the Brady list is if an officer is deemed to have done something that could jeopardize their credibility for testing or testifying in court. And in this, these are all, the prosecutor has the final say in this. So what our bill does is it is going to get people the ability to have an appeal process Because we've seen, again, it's the prosecutor, so each prosecutor has their own say, their own feelings on what that level is and what deems to be worthy of being on the Brady list. And it could be detrimental to an officer's career. And so it just gives them that due process that everybody else has. If somebody else goes in and is found guilty of a crime, they have the ability to appeal it. And so this bill here just gives that extra.
Basically, we need accountability and transparency, but we also need officers to have the same rights as the other as far as due process.
Correct. Yep. And then the other things that we're starting to work on is this LEAD program that started here in Washington State. It's law enforcement diversion programs, or law enforcement assisted diversion. And what it does is it gets people who are in the criminal system to get them to something that can actually help them, as opposed to just punishing them, right? And so, like, if somebody has some kind of a drug addiction, get them help for that drug addiction, right? Instead of just going straight to jail and they go away. Same with someone who's having mental health issues. So this allows law enforcement to intervene in that, and when we're dealing with somebody who's in these positions, we can get them at the help at the front end, instead of having to continually we get to go arrest them, put them in jail, and then deal with them later when they still haven't had the help that they needed. Giving people hope and purpose is how you get them to get out of this cycle.
Well, yeah, you need to get them clean first, though, to some degree.
Right, and so if you don't address that, and you just address the criminality of it, you're never gonna move that needle forward. You're never gonna get them. They're just gonna be somebody who you continually see over and over and over again. It's just gonna be a cycle because you haven't addressed the core issue, right? And so we're looking at trying to get that. We've had conversations both state and nationally with our representatives to see how we can kind of move these programs forward.
Yeah, I work with a lot of drug addicts, and I worked undercover quite a bit, and I never met anyone that purposely got on drugs. It was, that's something that happens to the other guy, basically.
Right.
And but the biggest problem is after you arrest them, they're mad at you, and once they get cleaned up, spend a little time in jail, and if they're given the opportunity to go through treatment, which it was court ordered back then, when they serve so much time and then go to treatment. The ones that had success with the treatments, I had someone come back and thank me for saving their life. I mean, so and then I've talked to some of the officers working a day, and they said, they used to go, they could give them the option. You go to jail or you go to treatment.
Right.
And most of the time they'd rather pick jail over the treatment because they can get they don't want to give up their drugs, basically.
Right. They don't have to go to the detox.
Yeah.
Right. They don't want to go through the pain of that, and that's always a hiccup for that. But yeah, so it's programs like that where we can hopefully address it. And to your point too, I've had that as well, where you've had people who just you dealt with them, they weren't happy that night, but after they get through the drug court and all that, they're writing you letters and thanking you, and completely different people.
And I had firefighters and officers tell me that once a lot of times guys on the street, when they're OD'd and they have problems, every time they have contact with them, they ask them, "You want to get help?" And they say no, but they go, if they say yes, you have to have a place for them right then, because they're going to change their mind if you don't get them into a place. Yep. The problem is there's not that many places available, and so they're at a loss for what to do with them.
So then that's kind of what we're looking at, is trying to get more of those places, more of those programs set and ready to go.
Okay. we're getting down time-wise.
All right.
So
No problem.
I'm going to check these and make sure we cover the most important.
You got it.
How important is FOP in shaping the nation's policies for how to deal with people in law enforcement?
So I feel like we've got a really good working relationship with the National FOP's board. Very solid. We have a good working relationship with them. I think it's important for us to continue that relationship and get our voices heard to the national, because policing on the West Coast is completely different from policing on the East Coast, and policing in the Midwest. I mean, they're all different, and so we have to be able to talk about what our issues are, what we're seeing, and what we need advocated for, and we do that. We also work alongside with a lot of the other states. When we push things here locally, if it has worked or failed in a different state, we'll ask those states to testify for us, to talk about which way it went and what challenges they saw or successes they saw. Same with the national board. They've come on and they've testified for us before, talking about different things and how they worked in their particular state and what they're seeing. And so being able, and then when we have successes here, we can then take it to the national, say, hey, look, this is actually working here. We think it can work everywhere. We talk about that Brady bill. That's actually Iowa's bill. They shared it with us. We think it's an amazing thing. They ran it through and made sure that it stands the legal tests. And so, it's things like that where we're able to work through with a bunch of different states on a bunch of different issues, finding what works and what doesn't, and how to fix things, both here and kind of hopefully shaping stuff nationally.
And that's great, the relationship we have with national. I know they're all a bunch of really educated and down-to-earth guys, and they want to work with. In fact, that's one of the only organizations where the rules are made by the members, not by the national. They do what we want them to do. It's not we do what they want.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You don't see that very often. And you can see it, though, in the unity across the country that we're getting.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. We only got a few minutes left. What's anything we missed that you'd like to relate to the people about FOP?
No, well, the only thing I actually would like to just touch on is kind of the growth that we've had with our community members, right? So some of the things that we're seeing now, and that I'm very excited about for the future, is our young officers. There's still young officers out there who, even though there's been turmoil and kind of bad messaging about policing, there's young officers who are coming to the profession and want to do so. We're also making huge strides with our community members. Being able to have these conversations, even through the turmoil years, we've had conversations with them. We've expressed, like, this is going to be the outcome. This is what good policing looks like. This is what a good policy would look like. And we kind of just, without not listening to both sides and without being aggressive about it, we just had conversations. We've now built these relationships where now they're coming to us and actually asking us for our opinion on what does this policy look like and how is it going to affect policing. And it's a great change, and it's like I said, it's a lot of hope for the future because of that, because we have these great relationships with everybody, and they come to us and they ask us for our opinion on what good policing would look like. And here's our idea on a change we want to make in a policy. And how's that going to affect you?
That's excellent, because a lot of the policymakers have no idea of what these people are like and how they're going about stuff. And when they try to do something, they alienate them instead of pull them onto their side.
Yeah.
So, and real quick, I think every time I start to feel negative about society and different things in it, you run into some young individuals that are really sharp, dedicated, and good people. And you think, we do have a chance to get things straightened out and working for us.
Yeah, and I see that in policing. There's just still a lot of young individuals who see this as a calling and truly want to do this profession and do it right.
And are dedicated to it. Yeah. And we thank God for that.
Yes, sir.
So, anyway, I thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And you're welcome back whenever you choose to come back. Let me know. Or, and if you got someone else that you would like to have do a show, let me know.
Gladly.
Okay, hang on a second.
All right.
And that concludes our show for today. Thank you very much for joining us. The world's a difficult place, and you can go to our website, and there's a link page that has people that can help you with almost any kind of problem that you have, and majority of them are all free. We tried to make them all free. Some of them, I think, slip in on us. But anyway, whether it's drugs or mental health or behavioral or whatever the problem is, check out the website and take care and stay safe out there. Thank you.